Chapter 79 to 80. Thump, thump, thump. Goten's body staggered back 6 or 7 steps, while Rumshi was sent flying tens of meters backward. Rustle. Upon transforming into the legendary Super Saiyan 2 form, a terrifying vibrant green Kai aura surged wildly around Goten's body, accompanied by powerful golden lightning. Goten fixed his long, narrow eyes on Rumshi. What? This? How is this possible? Rumshi-sama! Goten's counterattack not only repelled Rumshi, but also left Angel Kus in disbelief. Rumshi, the Hakaishin of the 10th universe, had been sent flying by a mere mortal from the 7th universe. Regardless of whether Rumshi had used his full strength, even 10% of his power should have been insurmountable for a mortal. Yet Goten had not only withstood it but also sent Rumshi flying backward. No mortal in the 10th universe could have accomplished this feat. Yet, a mortal from the 7th universe had done it with ease. Is this really a mortal from the 7th universe? He actually possesses power on par with a Hakaishin. It's unbelievable. Gowasu was also left dumbfounded. In their minds, a Hakaishin was the supreme existence, incomparable to any mortal. Yet a mortal from the 7th universe had just sent Rumshi flying backward. More importantly, Rumshi's roar seemed to have no deterrent effect on Goten. This was outrageous. This was definitely something Gowasu had never encountered in his tenure as a Kaioshin. I don't care if you are a Hakaishin or what. Don't think of me as an easy target. The only one who will suffer will be you. After sending Rumshi flying with a punch, Goten spoke lightly. His eyes were as cold as ice. In his eyes, the current level of Hakaishin was no longer omnipotent and invincible. Except for Beerus, he feared no other Hakaishin. Since he had mastered the power of destruction, even in a real battle with the Hakaishin, it was uncertain who would emerge victorious. No, impossible. It's just a mere mortal from the 7th universe. How could he possibly possess such a powerful force? And it does not seem that he was taught by Beerus or Angel Whis. Are you kidding me? When did such a powerful mortal appear in the 7th universe? Rumshi was also left completely dumbfounded. Originally, he thought he could kill that mortal with one blow. After all, he had used 70% of his strength for that punch, but he hadn't expected this outcome. In other words, even if he used all his strength, he might not be able to kill that mortal. This was simply outrageous. Not to mention the people from the 10th universe. Even Beerus himself wore an incredulous look on his face. His gaze was fixed on Goten. Are you kidding me? After just over a month of training, his strength has actually improved to this level. Although Rumshi is not the most powerful Hakaishin, it is too exaggerated to be able to knock him back with one punch. Beerus thought secretly in surprise. When he fought Goten a month ago, this guy definitely wasn't this strong. After only training with Whis for a month, he had strength comparable to Rumshi. Even in terms of strength alone, it was very likely that he had surpassed Rumshi. It seemed that this kid was not only a genius, but also a monster. If it was an ordinary mortal, how could they possibly have such a terrifying training speed? But soon, Beerus set his sights on Rumshi. Then he said proudly, "Heh, Rumshi, you actually used such a dirty sneak attack method to attack my apprentice. What's more, you were knocked back by a single punch. You're really useless." Naturally, he would not waste this opportunity to humiliate Rumshi. Rumshi gritted his teeth angrily, but he couldn't say a word of rebuttal, because what he did just now was indeed a bit despicable. First, he briefly incapacitated Beerus with his roar. Then he tried to kill a mortal by means of a sneak attack. But unexpectedly, this happened. He tried to gain an advantage only to end up worse off. Shut up, you stinky cat. So what if I'm despicable? You killed the trainee Kaioshin of my universe. Aren't you despicable too? No matter what, I won't let you leave this place easily. Ha! Rumshi's face was full of anger. After an angry roar, he charged directly at Beerus again. If he let Beerus leave the 10th universe like this today, how would he face other gods in the future? If the Hakaishin of other universes knew about this matter, they would definitely laugh at it. Heh, really? Beerus retorted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You can't even defeat a mere apprentice of mine, yet you aspire to challenge me? It appears I need to give you a reality check. Beerus clenched his fists and stretched his neck, his tone dismissive. Even if 2 or 3 Hakaishin were to team up, he wouldn't bat an eye, let alone a single Rumshi. In an instant, the two figures flashed, ready to clash. However, just as their fists were about to collide, Whis and Cuss appeared between them. With a single finger, they effortlessly blocked the impending clash. "Beerus-sama, have you forgotten the prohibition against fighting among the Hakaishin?" Whis reminded him lightly. "Rumshi-sama, your actions could lead to the collapse of our universe," Cuss warned. "When that happens, Zeno-sama and Daishinkan-sama will hold you accountable, and no one will be able to escape their wrath. The previous confrontations had no impact on the universe. However, a death match between the Hakaishin from 2 universes would gradually lead to the universe's collapse. Therefore, such battles were expressly forbidden by Zeno and the Grand Priest." "Damn it! Do I really have to let this shameless guy go?" Rumshi gritted his teeth, feeling as if he had swallowed a fly. It was Beerus who had provoked him first, yet he was unable to punish him. "Beerus, don't get too carried away," Rumshi warned. "I will definitely report this matter to Zeno-sama, and we'll see if you can still escape punishment then." Now that the 2 angels had intervened, it was clear that the fight could not continue. However, Beerus had killed an apprentice Kaioshin from the 10th universe. Rumshi was determined not to let this matter slide. He would report it to Zeno and ensure that this arrogant Beerus was punished. "Really?" Beerus retorted, unfazed. "That will just let Zeno-sama know what your apprentice Kaioshin has done in the other timelines. After all, it was Zamasu who had made the mistake first. A mere apprentice Kaioshin had dared to overstep his bounds and interfere with the duties of a Hakaishin. Moreover, he had killed all the Kaioshin and Hakaishin in the 12 universes. Once Zeno found out about this, it was highly likely that the 10th universe would disappear completely. Among the laws of the gods, Zeno had clearly stated that no mortal or low-level god could destroy a high-level god, even if it was accidental or a fluke. As long as the high-level gods were eliminated, they would either be wiped out on the spot or be completely sealed away. Upon hearing Beerus's words, Rumshi's expression darkened. If what Beerus said was true, then Zamasu was doomed, and if Zeno found out about this matter, his own fate would not be very good either. He couldn't understand what Gowasu was thinking when he decided to train such a person. "Whis, let's go!" Seeing Rumshi's gloomy face, Beerus said directly to Whis. He knew that today's fight would definitely not have any closure. "Yes, Beerus-sama." Whis nodded. To him, if they stayed in the 10th universe, it was likely that the 2 of them would end up fighting again. "Hey, you, mortal. What you did just now has humiliated a Hakaishin, so be on guard at all times." "Because I will not let this go." Rumshi stared at Goten and said, "If he couldn't deal with Beerus himself, couldn't he just deal with a mortal from the 7th universe?" Although this guy had great power, and even at full power, he might not be able to defeat him. The reason why Hakaishin were Hakaishin was because they had mastered the laws of a universe. This power could kill any creature in the universe, and killing a mortal, Zeno and the others would simply ignore it. "Huh? Threatening me?" Goten raised the corner of his mouth and said with a cold snort, "Sorry, your threat doesn't affect me, and I don't think you have the ability and qualifications to threaten me." If he hadn't fought with Beerus before, he would have been more afraid of the Hakaishin's destruction skill. But now he also possessed destruction skill, and under such circumstances, the Hakaishin's destruction skill had no effect on him. Even if Rumshi personally went to the 7th universe to kill him, the chance of success was only 10%. He might even be killed by Goten himself, because he would continue to grow stronger. Really? Rumshi could only grit his teeth and say, "Then just wait." This audacious mortal from the 7th universe was proving to be more of a nuisance than that insufferable Beerus. His fearlessness was intolerable. He had to be dealt with no matter what. "Ha! You have some nerve to threaten him. If any harm befalls Goten, I will have you pay a price beyond your comprehension." Upon hearing Rumshi's threat, Beerus's eyes narrowed, a cold glint flashing within them as he retorted. With Whis leading the way, the trio then departed from the 10th universe. Rumshi, on the other hand, was trembling with rage. Humiliated in his own universe by that detestable Beerus, This was an affront he could not let slide. If he did, his position as a Hakaishin would be a mockery. After a harsh reprimand to Gowasu, he was finally able to vent his anger. Once his fury had subsided, he had no choice but to retreat to his realm. There, he would contemplate his next move against that Beerus and that infuriating mortal. More than 2 hours later, Goten and Beerus had returned to the 7th universe. Beerus-sama, you've managed to royally offend Rumshi-sama this time. It seems unlikely that he will let this go easily, Whis commented lightly as they flew. Rumshi was a Hakaishin known for his pettiness. Having suffered such humiliation today, he would undoubtedly seek revenge. Do you think I'm worried about him? Even if there were 3 more like him, it wouldn't be enough for me to break a sweat, Beerus retorted arrogantly, a look of disdain on his face. It was a fact. The gap in strength between Rumshi and Beerus was significant. Of course, Beerus-sama, I know you're not concerned. But Rumshi-sama did mention that he would seek revenge on Goten. That's no laughing matter, Whis continued. Goten was indeed powerful, but against the full might of a Hakaishin, he would still be outmatched. Tch! Then keep a close eye on that guy. The moment he enters our 7th universe, notify me immediately, Beerus instructed Whis, a scowl on his face. Goten was the mortal he admired the most, and he saw great potential in him as a future adversary. He would not allow Rumshi to harm Goten. Yes, Beerus-sama, Whis responded with a nod. As for Goten, he didn't take Rumshi seriously. Whether or not Rumshi dared to cause trouble in the 7th universe was irrelevant. Even if he did, he lacked the power to kill him. So, shall we return to the God Realm, or head to Earth? Whis asked next. He hadn't visited Earth in several days, and it was time to restock his supplies. Let's head to Earth. I want to see that guy who's been recklessly traveling through time, and while we're at it, Goten can fulfill his earlier promise, Beerus replied nonchalantly. In truth, he no longer cared about the issue of time travel. As long as Zeno and the others didn't find out, there wouldn't be a problem. His main reason for visiting Earth was, of course, to sample some gourmet food, a treat that Goten had promised him earlier. Very well, Whis agreed, nodding happily. After another half an hour, the 4 of them arrived on Earth and headed straight for Capsule Corp. Trunks was training in the front yard. Bulma had made some modifications so that during general training, the energy waves wouldn't spread out at all. This ensured that it wouldn't disturb the city's inhabitants or damage any buildings. Whoosh, whoosh. Goten and the others appeared. Trunks quickly halted his training. Goten, Krillin? And who might these 2 be? Trunks greeted Goten and Krillin with a smile, then turned his attention to Beerus and Whis, looking somewhat puzzled. Judging by their attire, they clearly weren't Earthlings, and he couldn't sense any ki emanating from them at all. Let me introduce you, Trunks. This is the Hakaishin, Beerus-sama, and this is Angel Whis, who can be considered our mentor. Goten introduced them promptly. By the way, the reason you're able to stay in this timeline is mainly due to Beerus-sama's leniency. Goten added, hinting that Trunks should express his gratitude to Beerus, and perhaps flatter him a bit. After all, Beerus was a sucker for respect and fear. And Trunks was just the type to show such deference. Upon hearing Goten's explanation, Trunks immediately bowed at a 90-degree angle to Beerus, his expression filled with profound gratitude. Beerus-sama, thank you very much. Thank you for taking us in. His tone and demeanor were impeccable. Seeing Trunks's reverent tone and attitude, Beerus slightly raised his eyebrows. He had initially intended to intimidate Trunks, but given Trunks's current demeanor, scolding him seemed unnecessary. His reverent attitude and respectful tone made it impossible for Beerus to threaten him. Forget it. This matter was primarily for Goten's sake and the food he promised. After a moment's hesitation, Beerus casually waved his hand. He didn't care anymore. The young man before him had shown such a good attitude in admitting his mistakes, so the matter was considered settled. Thank you, Beerus-sama. Trunks thanked him again, respectfully. He had harbored some doubts before. He had heard from his mother that Beerus was a fearsome god, known for his love of destruction and killing. Therefore, he had been quite terrified these past few days. However, the Beerus standing before him seemed entirely different from the one his mother had described. He was surprisingly approachable. With a few simple words of gratitude, he had directly pardoned Trunks for the felony of time travel. Compared to the previous Zamasu, Beerus seemed like the friendliest god in the world. At this time, Bulma also emerged from the room upon hearing the commotion. Seeing Beerus's feline face, Bulma felt a twinge of fear. After all, this was the god who had blown up Goten to pieces and nearly destroyed the entire Earth. Now, Trunks had once again traveled through time. According to Goten, this act was a serious crime.
Hey, Goten, have you forgotten what you promised me earlier?
I would no longer pursue the matter of that kid traveling through time at will, and you would have to bring out the best food on Earth and let me taste it. Beerus glanced at Goten, then said impatiently. It had been days since he tasted the delicacies of Earth. To be honest, he really missed it. Food? Everyone, please wait a moment. I will order people to prepare. It will be here soon. Bulma was momentarily stunned, then quickly responded to everyone. She knew beforehand that Beerus and Whis were typical foodies. They seemed to have a soft spot for Earth's cuisine. It seemed that this time they didn't pursue the matter of Trunks, partly because of Goten's influence and partly because of Earth's food. 10 minutes later, the servants in Bulma's house had prepared a large table of food. The dishes were colorful and fragrant, causing Beerus and Whis to salivate. Of course, Goten also felt his stomach growling. When he was training in the realm of the Hakaishin, he almost never had enough to eat every day. Whis would hoard most of the food and only give him and Krillin a small amount. According to Whis, eating too much was not conducive to training. It was all for their own good. Several people ate for 3 hours. The dishes on the table were also changed batch after batch. Beerus and Whis were foodies themselves, and their appetites were no less than those of Saiyans. Coupled with Goten and Trunks, these few hours were estimated to consume the lifetime income of an ordinary person. So full! The food here is still the best. Whis, why didn't you discover such delicious food on Earth before? If you had found out earlier, we wouldn't have to eat so much rubbish. Beerus leaned on the armchair, touched his stomach, and said with a satisfied face, after tasting the delicacies of Earth, recalling the food that he had eaten before, it was simply unpalatable, trash. Oh, didn't Beerus-sama not notice it too? Whis complained. However, the cuisine of Earth was indeed delicious. In the entire 7th universe, it was estimated that there was no second planet with so many delicacies. So the Earth must not be given over to the 6th universe. This time, with the 6th universe, we must not lose, do you understand? Beerus immediately spoke seriously to Goten. If this match with the 6th universe was lost, then the Earth would belong to the 6th universe. At that time, it was estimated that he would never eat such delicious food again. Don't worry, Beerus-sama. I won't lose, Goten said with a determined face. In Universe 6, the most formidable warrior was Hit. With no restrictions, he possessed the power to instantly kill Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta. However, his current strength had surpassed that of Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta, reaching the level of a Hakaishin. It was speculated that even Jiren wouldn't be entirely confident in defeating him. Thus, Hit was no match for him. Hit's basic combat power wasn't particularly strong. His most notable and challenging ability to counter was his time-skip skill. As long as one was aware of this and took precautions, Hit was relatively easy to handle. That's good, Beerus said dismissively. I'll leave this matter to you. Once again, Beerus adopted a hands-off approach, which was his preferred method. A few hours later, as darkness fell, Whis and Beerus returned to the God Realm. Goten and Krillin stayed behind as they still needed to find the last contestant. With Majin Buu, they now had 4 people in total. They needed one more to complete their team for the Universe 7. After some thought, they considered Roshi, who was over 200 years old, as a potential candidate for the 5th position. Everyone else was more ordinary. Although Videl and Satan could be considered relatively powerful fighters on Earth, they were clearly not qualified to participate in a universe-level battle. Now, they had to either choose Roshi or go to other planets to find a suitable candidate. Although Frieza had died a few years ago, he still had some stronger fighters under his command. Their fighting power was certainly stronger than Roshi's. In addition to those from the Frieza Legion, there were also options to choose from heaters and granola. Goten, besides the four of us, there is only one fighter left. Who are you going to choose? Krillin asked. If it really doesn't work, let Master Roshi participate. It's just a formality to fill in the numbers. With a few of us, we can win the contest, Goten said lightly. He was not worried about the match against Universe 6. Even if he participated alone, he would still be able to defeat Universe 6. What he was worried about now was whether Zeno would pay attention after the battle with Universe 6. In the original Dragon Ball Super, it was because of the private competition between Universe 6 and Universe 7 that Zeno was attracted. Therefore, there would be a tournament of power between the whole multiverse. Well, that's fine too, Krillin agreed. Master Roshi, although his own strength is not very strong, his mastery in martial arts is not comparable to that of ordinary people. Roshi had once told them a very philosophical sentence. To judge the strength of a fighter, one must not only look at his energy or combat effectiveness. Instead, combine all factors. Sometimes combat skills and experience are more important than combat power and energy. Considering this, he thought that Roshi was a good candidate to participate in the tournament. Suddenly, Krillin had an idea. How about, let Bulma make an android similar to number 16. In the competition with Universe 6, there was no rule that androids or robots should not be allowed to participate. Krillin, you think it's easy to make an android? I did study the production concept and all the materials of Android 16, but even with all the materials available, creating an android is not a matter of overnight. In one day, it is simply impossible to manufacture it, Bulma retorted immediately. Even if she was a technological genius and had borrowed Dr. Gero's previous manufacturing concept, it was absolutely impossible to create an android in one day. This was literally a joke. Hey, there's a simple fix for that. Just head to the hyperbolic time chamber. A year there is ample time for you to create an android similar to number 16, Krillin suggested with a smile. No, the atmosphere in the hyperbolic time chamber is harsh, and Bulma is just an ordinary person. The conditions there are enough to crush an average human being, Goten immediately countered. He didn't believe it was necessary to create an android yet, and Bulma simply couldn't handle the harsh conditions of that chamber. Hey, I was just speaking hypothetically. Krillin could only respond with an awkward smile. Perhaps his transformation into an android had left him longing for a companion. Goten, why don't you consider me? Although I know that the gap between me and you is vast. During this period, I have already learned to control my ki, and I have almost mastered the flying technique. At this moment, Videl volunteered. Although she knew that with her current strength, there was no possibility of her being on par with Goten, they were missing one person now, and they didn't seem to be able to find a replacement for a while. She could also fill up the number in the contest, and along the way, she could see the powerhouses of other universes. You want to participate? Although it's just to fill in the numbers, your strength is too weak. Goten responded mercilessly. Videl was just an ordinary human being. Such a battle was simply not something she could participate in. It would be bad if she was injured in battle. All right. After hearing Goten's straightforward words, Videl also nodded awkwardly. Goten, speaking of it, some time ago when you were not on Earth, I participated in an academic seminar. At that conference, I met a very beautiful woman who was also a very good scientist. It's just that I've never heard of her or seen her before. But maybe because I've been with you guys for too long, I always felt that that woman was not like an ordinary person. There was a mysterious feeling around her. Bulma suddenly spoke. Just over 20 days ago, she was invited to participate in a large academic seminar. Most of those who accepted were some of the more famous scientists on Earth. Because there were not many people in this field, she basically knew most of them. There was a very beautiful woman among them, but she had never seen her. And her intuition told her that that woman was definitely not simple. To have this feeling, maybe besides a woman's intuition, it may also be because she had been with Z fighters for a long time. So for those special people, there was a different feeling. It was just that too many things happened during this time, and she left those things behind. When Krillin talked about androids just now, she thought of that woman. A mysterious, beautiful woman, Goten asked with some surprise. A woman who could make Bulma feel unfathomable must be very special. After hearing Goten's words, everyone cast strange eyes. Apparently they felt that Goten might be having absurd thoughts. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "I was thinking that she must be special since Bulma mentioned her," Goten said speechlessly. He didn't know what these guys were thinking about every day. "Well, anyway, I don't think she's like an ordinary person. I can't say what's wrong, but it just feels like this," Bulma answered immediately.
Bulma, can you describe what that woman looked like? Because I haven't felt any strange key signatures on Earth these days. I didn't even feel a stronger key," Goten continued to ask curiously. If the other party was special enough, then with his current perception, he must be able to feel their key. But recently, he didn't feel any strange key on Earth. So he was very curious about Bulma's intuition.
Let me think about it. The most obvious feature of her is the big brown curly hair, and she was wearing a white coat and a fancy plaid tights. Of course, she was really beautiful and had a perfect figure. There were a pair of beautiful eyes like sapphires, yes, and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. Bulma was trying to recall, trying to describe all her greatest characteristics. The most notable feature of that woman Bulma mentioned was her beauty and perfect figure, and she had a cold vibe. So much so that they didn't speak at the time. "Is that so? She seems to match the description of someone I know." After hearing Bulma's description, Goten slightly raised his brows. In his mind, a figure immediately appeared. Dark brown curly hair, black glasses, perfect face and figure. Doesn't this meet all the characteristics of Android 21? Tien Uff, author, turned on hacks mode for them. Krillin started using brain after becoming android. Bulma got intuitive sensor to detect androids. Videl asking for a beating. Goten giving her a reality check. Good God, where is this world going to?